Good afternoon, and welcome to our continuing series, Interviews with Disciples and Devotees. Once again, we are honored to have Kittu Reddy with us for the ideal of human unity. Welcome, Kittu.
Thank you. So we are now entering the 5th chapter, Nation and Empire. This is a very important chapter. In a way, a unique Sri Aurobindonian contribution, and it is deeply subjective. So I will lead you gradually to that. I will first read the first paragraph and then explain a little bit. The problem of the unification of mankind resolves itself into two difficulties. There is a doubt whether the collective egoisms already created in the natural evolution of humanity can at this time be sufficiently modified or abolished, and whether even an external unity in some effective form can be securely established. And there is a doubt whether, even if such external unity can be established, it will not be at the price of crushing both the free life of the individual and the free play of the various collective units already created, in which there is a real and active life, and substituting a state organization which will mechanize human existence. So in the present stage of evolution, the largest natural collective unit which is thriving and alive is what is known as the nation. Right? Because the title of this chapter is Nation and Empire. And ultimately he is showing you that an empire is an artificial unit because it is held together by force, while the nation is a natural unit, a real unit, which is essentially bound by a certain deep psychological bonding. So this is the main thing. So again I'll read a little bit. At the present stage of human progress, the nation is a living collective unit of humanity. Empires exist, but they are as yet only political units and not real units. You see, he has now already started making a difference. A political unit and a real unit. I will just anticipate and speak about India, one sentence, that India has become a political unit, stable, steady political unit, only after the British came in. Before that, we were continually fighting among ourselves. There were attempts by Chandragupta Maurya and the Guptas and Harshvardhan to unite the whole country. Then came the Muslims. The Muslims and Akbar made some kind of unity. But a political unit which was well established was done by the British after the Sepoy Mutiny. But India has existed for 5,000 years. Although it might not have been politically united. Great Britain was formed in the 16th century. So now this very fact that it has lasted 5,000 years proves that it is a real unit and not merely a political unit. So the conclusion will be that political units can break. Real units may break, but they will come back. So this is the key idea that he is trying to bring in. Now I'll explain this sentence again. Next one. Empires exist, but they are as yet only political and not real units. They have no life from within and owe their continuance to a force imposed on their constituent elements, or else to a political convenience felt or acquiesced in by the constituents and favored by the world outside. So these political units, they exist and continue to exist because they are held by force, or the outside world doesn't want it to break up. So I'll give you right now in front of the example of Pakistan. Pakistan got its independence from 1947 along with India. But in these 70 odd years of history, it is almost always that the military has dominated and kept it together. Theoretically, there might be a civilian rule. Practically, even today, there is a military rule. And for at least 25 to 30 years, there has been overtly a military rule. Evidently, it is unstable. But the countries abroad, around, in the world, very few of them would like Pakistan to disappear. Because if Pakistan disappears, the land won't disappear, the people won't disappear. It will have to merge somewhere. So it might merge, it can only merge with India. It can't merge with the United States or Vietnam or anybody else, or even Saudi Arabia, however much they might pretend, right? You see, now this is a very crucial thing. Very often the inside is dead, but we are keeping you alive by artificial means. Even for patients it is like that, right? One doctor told me the other day about someone so attached to life. There is no point in living. It's become a kind of zombie. So it is better that she goes, but she's so attached to living, so we have to keep going and going and going. And there is an example of an old sadhika of the ashram, whose name I will not give because it is being recorded. When she reached a certain stage where she knew that it will be difficult to continue in the physical body, she just told everyone, you leave me, I'll remain on my bed, and whatever minimum help you need to give. Medicines you stop absolutely, leave it to mother and me, and I'll merge with her. Right? Here, there were some external forces, the relatives who were determined to keep her going, but she was very firm that I will merge with the mother.
But I have a question about the first example. How do we know that the soul did not still have work to do in that body?
No, I didn't understand.
How do we know that the soul did not have more work to do in that body, and that's why she was hanging on, not just to life?
No, sure.
We can't say.
No, the person who wanted to be undisturbed.
No. First example.
No, the first example was of a nation, not of a person. The first example was of Pakistan. right?
Okay, okay.
It is the outside agency that wanted to keep Pakistan. And even now, no country in the world, or almost no country, neither Soviet Union nor America, would like Pakistan to dissolve and become part of India, because then India becomes a terrific power. These differences, this conflict that we are having, is something which they enjoy a lot. Whatever they might say, they are feeding. How much weapons have been received by Pakistan from other countries, right? Now, I will say, and quite categorically, that Pakistan has no soul. But can you go to the United Nations and say this statement? People will laugh at you. I am saying because I am a disciple of the mother. And in fact, as I have told you already in one of the talks, that there was a discussion in the higher course with some teachers, and I asked mother a question regarding Pakistan. And she answered. I sent it in the morning, by afternoon she sent it back to me. I mean, very rapid. The English translation is this: the disappearance of Pakistan is inevitable. It could have happened earlier, but human ignorance has delayed it. Now, that human ignorance is to be able to see that Pakistan does not have a soul and that its natural union will be with India. But this is a statement which I can make to you here. I cannot make it from the Red Fort or in the United Nations, because this is subjective.
So America is very young. Does it have a soul?
Yes, because Mother herself definitely has got a soul. America has got a soul, Great Britain has got a soul, France has got a soul,
Okay.
Ireland has got a soul. Aurobindo has referred to that very clearly.
Yes, very
Very distinct personality,
Very.
right? And very a strong spiritual element in it, right? They belong to the Druids,
Yes.
and the French also origin is the Druids, right? Which is very open towards spirituality. Now, this is a very important problem, but very difficult to talk about publicly. As Aurobindo will say, in one sentence, nevertheless, it may be asked, why should this distinction be made of the political unit and the real unit? Because name, kind, and form are the same. Outwardly, everything is same. It must be made because it is of the greatest utility to a true and profound political science and involves the most important consequences. You see, now this is exactly where, as far as I have understood, and all the governments of India till Modi came in swore by the existence of Pakistan. Nehru was very clear about it. That we agreed to the partition, it is final now. There is no question. I have sent Narendra Modi my letter, which mother had given to me. And he responded very warmly, which makes me believe, naturally he doesn't say anything else, that he has accepted that. But as a politician, he cannot announce that Pakistan has to go. That will be the end of all political relationships. But you will have to work in that direction little by little. So there is something called a political unit and there is something called a real unit. So now I will continue. So he is giving examples, and I won't repeat those examples because you need to know a lot of history. Austria, the Hohenzollerns, and many others, that we leave it. But the principle is very clear, that a real unit is one that is bound psychologically from within, and a political unit is one that is artificially kept together. So he is giving an example, which this one I'll read. When an empire like Austria, it is known as the Holy Roman Empire, a non-national empire, is broken to pieces, it perishes for good. There is no innate tendency to recover the outward unity, because there is no real inner oneness. On the other hand, a real national unity, broken up by circumstances, will always preserve a tendency to recover and reassert its oneness. You can look at this problem at all levels, even at individual level, between two human beings. There can be an artificial relationship based on convenience, a neighborhood, you are living beside me, etc., etc. And there can be a much deeper relationship which does not base itself on anything external. That is what we call true love. And that's why somebody asked me, we are not in the ashram. Can we be in touch with the mother? I said, of course. You don't have to be in the ashram at all. It is good to come here now and then to charge your battery. But first of all, the battery has to be there. So, wherever you are in the world, and very powerfully, you can interact with her, you can relate to her, you can depend on her. And I know many people who live their life guided by Mother Aurobindo to a very great extent. So this is a very important thing which has to be seen, on the larger scale. So he is giving examples again. Now I'll come to India. But the most striking example in history is the evolution of India. Nowhere else have the centrifugal forces been so strong. You know the meaning of centrifugal? That which tends to move away from the center. Breaks have been so strong, numerous, complex, obstinate. Even today, there are elements, not too many, but which are threatening to move out of India, right? The mere time taken by the evolution has been prodigious. The disastrous vicissitudes through which it has had to work itself out have been appalling. That's why we have been conquered century after century, century after century. In the earlier part, the conquerors got absorbed and they became Indians. After the Muslims, they became Indians, but there was a distinct separation still. And the British was the first unit that became completely distinct. So, the vicissitudes have been appalling. And yet, through it all, the inevitable tendency has worked constantly, pertinaciously, with the dull, obscure, indomitable, relentless obstinacy of nature, when she is opposed in her instinctive purposes by man. And finally, after a struggle enduring through millenniums, has triumphed. So you see, nature is very stubborn. You might not cooperate, but it will go on pressing and pressing and pressing, and ultimately it will get the thing done. And as usually happens, this is a very interesting statement, when she is thus opposed by her own mental and human material, It is the most adverse circumstances that the subconscious worker has turned into our most successful instruments. So now I'll give this to you first on the individual level. If any one of us are destined to arrive at the contact with the divine, because your soul has reached a point where that is your destiny. But my lower nature is not cooperating, as often happens. Then the divine will use the most adverse circumstances to bring you on the path. He will give you blow after blow, blow after blow. And I remember on my birthday, one year when I was going through a rather difficult period psychologically, you can call it an ordeal. Mother gave me the card, be grateful for all ordeals, for they are the shortest way to the divine. So you see, when ordeals come, you complain. What the hell? Why is the divine doing all this? I came here for sadhana and you are giving me such difficult circumstances. So be grateful for all ordeals. And let me tell you one thing more. I have told you this already. And this was in November 1958. One of the last classes that Mother took on Wednesday. And since it was November, many children, or October end, many children on November would pass out from the higher course. Some would stay back here, some would go out. And Mother said, whether you stay back or whether you go out, my love is always with you and you will be in touch with me. But if you come to me and tell me, Mother, I want to do yoga, Aurobindo's integral yoga, and I say yes, finished. From tomorrow, you will get blow after blow, blow after blow. Everything that resists in your nature will be brought to the surface. You will be hammered. If you decide to compromise, going outside, enjoying a little bit, yet love the mother, she says, that is one thing. That is also acceptable because you are not ready. But here you are aspiring for that higher truth. And you have asked me and I have agreed. Right? And she said, you will get blow after blow. So if you want peace, don't ever come to the ashram. Go to Ramana Maharshi. There you will get peace. Here you will get ultimate peace. But in the meanwhile you have to go through a kind of, right? So same thing you can apply on the larger scale, say to nations. Nations have to understand what their destiny is. And they have to move in that direction. If you don't move, nature will create the most adverse and unpleasant circumstances. And that is exactly what happened in India-Pakistan relations. In 47, look at the killings that took place, millions, while the population was migrating. In 1950, Aurobindo wrote a letter. At that time in East Pakistan, some terrible things were happening, where the Hindus were being butchered, slaughtered like cows. Aurobindo wrote to someone that this is the chance, and the Indian army was preparing to get in. He said, this is the chance when we have to march into East Pakistan take it and make it part of India, inevitably there will be a war on the Western Front. Finish that also, and then our dream will come true, will be finished. But then, when the Pakistan government realized that we might be serious about this, Liaquat Ali, their Prime Minister, made a pact with Nehru that we will create two minority groups who will look after the minority. So in India, the Muslims are the minority, in Bangladesh, the Hindus are the minority, in East Pakistan, and we will solve the problem. Aurobindo says it is a very clever method by which Nehru has been fooled. Exact words I am not giving, but I have got the letter. And this letter was written to Amal Kiran. And I asked him to give it to me, and he gave it to me. So I have kept it. So, and because of that, you see, year after year, this is going on. 1965, there was a war between India and Pakistan. Again, mother sent a telegram to Lal Bahadur Shastri. India, the war, I don't remember the exact words, India must continue fighting till India and Pakistan become one, because that is the truth of their being. Huta asked her, but if the Security Council objects, you still have to go on. Defy the Security Council. She didn't use the word defy, you still have to go on. That letter is there in White Roses, right? Huta's collection. In 1971, India intervened in Bangladesh. In December, the slaughter started on 26th March. In December 1971, there were elections in Pakistan on both quarters. And in East Pakistan, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman won 165 out of 166 seats. It is almost complete. And he said, I am going to make Bengali the national language of East Pakistan. Bhutto didn't agree, Yahya Khan didn't agree. So they sent the army and the butchering started. Tremendous butchering. On 26th March, I am giving you the date, on the 4th of April, mother wrote a message. Exact words no, but it is almost. It is urgent and imperative that India recognize Bangladesh immediately. So East Pakistan will become Bangladesh and India will recognize it. It's an outright act of war against Pakistan. Evident or not? Indira Gandhi was open to mother. When she got the message, she was willing to do it. So there is a very interesting note by Manekshaw when Indira Gandhi called a cabinet meeting and invited the Chief of Army Staff, General Manekshaw, to the meeting. And ultimately, after all the talk, Mrs. Gandhi hinted very clearly that we should attack East Pakistan. So Manekshaw asked Indira Gandhi, Madam, have you read the Bible? He said, of course I have read the Bible, but what has the Bible got to do with all this? In the Bible it was said, let there be light, and there was light. Now you are telling me, let there be war, and there will be war. It will not happen like that. Why? Because of you. You and your finance minister and your defense minister. Jagjeevan Ram was the defense minister at that time. I have got only one tank that is operational, and that is lying in Secunderabad. And you want me to fight a war with that one tank? And do you know this is April, May? Now in Bangladesh it will start raining, it will be pouring like anything. The rivers will become like oceans. Impossible to fight. I can't have war now. But since you want it and we agree with it, give me some time, I'll prepare. And then we'll do it. So the Indian army started preparing. And what did they do? First, they trained the rebels in Bangladesh, the Hindus and many Muslim young men, brought them to India, Agartala, Tripura, Calcutta, and gave them military training, gave them military equipment, gave them guns, go back and fight. So they used to go guerrilla warfare at night, in the daytime they're back in India. And I was very deeply involved at that time with the war. And I wrote to mother. That I'll tell you another day. Anyway, this thing went on, and India had decided, with Indira Gandhi's support, that India will invade East Pakistan on 5th December. It was a random choice, but evidently it was a deep meaning. But then General Arora, who was the Eastern Army commander and who was in charge of the operations, he had a big problem. He said, if we attack, internationally it will have a tremendous repercussions. So he had a friend, not a friend, a junior, Lieutenant Colonel P.C. Bhalla. He used to live in Delhi in one of those apartments which was reserved for the army. He was a very good friend of mine. I met him whenever I used to go to Delhi, I used to meet him. He was a palmist, and he has been coming to Aurobindo from 1950. And he is an ardent disciple. He was very, very upset that mother wanted Indira Gandhi to declare war against Bangladesh, against East Pakistan, but she is delaying it. So he wrote a letter to mother and came here in August and wanted to meet her. So mother said, yes, you can come. He came. Mother Pandit used to accompany him. He went upstairs and he expressed what he had to say. No, he didn't express. Mother Pandit told mother that he is very disturbed because he is unhappy that the government of India is not obeying your instructions. I don't believe that Indira is entirely on your side. Mother said nothing. Mother smiled. Mother gave him a blessing packet and asked him to come back next day. Again they went next day. And this time mother smiled and blessed and told him that it will happen. So he felt comfortable. I was a very good friend, so he told me all this. And then on December 5th, it was decided that India will attack, but as I said, international repercussions. So General Arora asked Colonel Bhalla what to do. Now this Colonel Bhalla, very interesting man. General Chatterjee, who lives in Aurobindo, General Tiwari, who has passed away. He was General Tiwari's subordinate. And you know, in the army it is very strict. You can't meet a higher officer. You can meet only the one above you if you have any problems. He just broke all rules and went to Brigadier Tiwari at that time and told him, sir, why are you looking so unhappy and sullen? He said, Chami, if you knew the problem that I have to face The Naxalites are coming up in Calcutta, the Bangladesh problem, East Pakistan problem, and the dilly-dallying. Anybody would go mad. He said, very simple. When you have problems like this, write to mother. Who is mother? Right? So he didn't know. And there was another gentleman called Jacob, who was a Jew, who was the chief of staff of the Eastern Command. Chief of staff is not the same thing as the chief of army staff. Chief of staff is the second in command after the army commander. So General Jacob was a very good friend of mine. I used to live in the same flat in the same, complex as Balla. And Balla was very close to him because they served together. So I used to go and meet him. So he himself told me that he asked me to write a letter to mother. And I said, who is his mother? A French lady. Why should I write to her? Then he saw in Balla's hand the ring. And he said the symbol on the ring is very much like the Israeli symbol. So something inside told him, you write. So he wrote a letter to the mother, saying that all his problems, and mother just wrote blessings and put a blessing packet in the envelope, and it was given to Ballaji, who went and handed it over to. Now the problem was December 3rd, December 5th was the day of attack. But then this worry of international. So again, write to mother. He wrote to mother. He came here on December 1st. He met mother. Not one word spoken, only mother signed and gave the letter. He flew back on December 2nd. Evening in Calcutta, he gave the letter to General Jacob and General Aurora. And lo and behold, on the third morning, Pakistani planes by the hundreds attacked Pathankot and North India. So Mrs. Gandhi got a chance. So at midnight of 3rd December, that is 4th December starting, she declared war against Pakistan, against East Pakistan. And the army marched in from the next day, and it was a 13-day war. Never has such a big war been fought and finished in 13 days. We captured 93,000 prisoners who surrendered. And Jacob and Niazi, Lieutenant General Niazi, they signed the surrender thing. There was absolutely no reason for signing. They could have easily continued for another month resisting. Somehow he was brainwashed. And when they were going to sign, this Pakistani General Niazi, he had got his pistol. He said, I'll shoot him, the Indian Army commander. But then at the last moment he put it down. I don't know what happened, hypnotized or something. But he signed the surrender. And 93,000 prisoners were taken. And then Indira Gandhi declared ceasefire on December 16th. The day our school opens and playground opens, we have a march past. Mother was very unhappy about the ceasefire. She said she should have continued on the Western Front and brought the whole thing into India. But we didn't listen. She didn't listen. Not only she didn't listen. After a year, or I don't remember exactly how much time, she released all the 93,000 prisoners. Now that was a bargaining tool, right? You could have used those 93,000 prisoners to get Pakistan by peaceful methods rather than violent methods. Mother was very unhappy. It happened. We didn't learn our lesson. You see what has happened after that. Pakistan has realized that in an open, straight, conventional war, they have no chance. India will finish them. So they took to the other light. Terrorist attack. Sponsor terrorism and attack. It is used in the political language. Instead of killing the man and beheading him, give him 1,000 cuts. Here cut, here cut, here cut, here cut. So their policy was 1,000 cuts. And that has been going on. And right today it is going on. Whether it is stone pelters in Kashmir or anywhere else, it is the same thing. Very fortunately, this government is a little tougher, a little stronger, and his intentions are quite right. And I have sent him all these things because these things are in writing in different parts. I have sent every one of these things printed out and sent it to Narendra Modi. Now you do what you think is best, because you are speaking of Aurobindo with some pride. So evidently you must be respecting it. So I did that. So you see, unless, in nature, nature does this both on the individual and the national level. When it is going somewhere, it will use any method to awaken us. And it can be the most brutal and painful methods. And this I have already told you. First World War, League of Nations. Second World War, United Nations. Do we need a third World War? Or have we become mature enough to localize the wars and come to a deeper? I believe that whether we have become mature or not, I don't know, but the supermind has descended. And that will probably not allow the war to become a world war. Because today world war means no winner, all losers. Everybody has got nuclear bombs. So, and in fact what is keeping everybody under control is the fear of terrible destruction. Nothing much has changed inside. Little bit, because of interdependence and many other things, but not enough. But still, even the outer method has its value, its place, and that is how things will happen. So basically it is this, that India had always got this sense of oneness on the religious, cultural, deeper levels. But we did not learn enough to unite ourselves and create a political unity. So nature used the most adverse circumstances. And what are the adverse circumstances? Foreigners will come in contact and take over. You see, when foreigner comes and takes you over, then suddenly you unite. Then after some time again you start fighting among yourselves. So right till 1857 we are doing that. And ultimately the Congress Party was formed in 1885 as a symbol of national aspiration. But then their methods were, according to Aurobindo, absolutely rotten, begging for certain reforms, which he came and completely changed everything and brought in a new element. So the simple thing is, this sentence is very, since the essentiality of the thing was there, not even the most formidable difficulties and delays, not even the most persistent incapacity for union in the people, not even the most disintegrating shocks from outside have prevailed against this obstinate subconscious necessity. And this is only the extreme illustration of a general law. So India was politically stupid, fighting among ourselves, So we had to suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer. I think that now we have developed a sense of understanding that we have to remain politically united and not raise petty provincial demands beyond a certain point. Federalism is very desirable, but not federalism at the cost of unity. I believe that we have learned a lesson. Time will show. You can stop.
Let us stop here then. Thank you so much.